Hi, this is Karen Flaherty from Living by Human Design, and this is a discussion of the Sacral Center, one of the energy centers on your Human Design chart. So the sacral is the big red square that's second up from the bottom, and this is all about workforce and life force energy. The sacral is the most powerful motor in the Human Design chart, and it's really a major source of energy. It's just kind of raw power. It's like a mechanical generator humming away, and it's ready to unleash its stored energy whenever you need it. So the good news is that if you have a sacral colored in, you will always have that energy. It's not going anywhere. So that when the sacral is defined, there are about 70% of the population that have it colored in as red. And this means that you're either a generator or a manifesting generator. And that is sustainable workforce and life force energy that you can always count on. It makes you like a worker bee. You're able to work in a masterful and sustainable way. And in fact, over time, you might become quite expert at whatever it is you're doing. And other people are going to perceive you as the Energizer Bunny sometimes, but it's extremely important that you're engaged in the right work. When you enjoy doing what you're doing, when you're busy doing what you love, you'll have even more energy to do it. So just for example, if you're in a job right now that's not completely fulfilling, you might feel that even if you have this sacral defined, you don't really have the energy or the oomph to get there every day or to do the work that you want to do every day. Part of that, and funnily enough, you will be able to do it because you're a generator or a manifesting generator. But over time, you'll feel as if you don't have the energy. And if you were to find something that really rang your bells, you would have that energy back. So just know that whenever you do find what you really want to be doing in life, you'll have plenty of energy to do it. So as someone with a defined sacral, which is either the generator or the manifesting generator, your strategy is that you're designed to wait, not initiate. And so your strategy is to wait to respond to things in your outer reality. You want to learn to develop that patience in waiting. Use your sacral to make decisions. And you can also train others to ask you yes or no questions so your sacral can respond. Your sacral is always responding with a sound that indicates yes or no. And just for example, the sounds might sound something like uh-huh or uh-uh. If you'll learn to use those sometimes, not in polite conversation, but sometimes when you're by yourself or in front of the refrigerator or in a parking space situation, you can use these sounds to open up the sacral, to wake up the sacral, if you will. And so you can use yes and no questions to ask people in your life the questions that you want to ask them, such as what would you like for dinner? It's really much easier to say, instead of what would you like for dinner, which is an open-ended question, much easier to ask the generator or manifesting generator, spouse or child, would you like this kind of food? Or would you like this kind of food? And wait for them to say yes or no to either of those, or uh-huh and uh-uh. That'll be coming directly from the sacral. The thing is, with the sacral, you can always depend on that because it's coming directly from your inner being or your gut or whatever you want to call that, as opposed to coming from your head. If there's a paragraph involved, then it's coming from your head, or anything longer than a uh-huh and uh-uh, it's coming from somebody's head. But if you're just getting a direct yes or no, or uh-huh or uh-uh, that's the kind of answer you want and that you can trust. And so you kind of getting the gist of how the sacral is designed to work and how you can be making decisions in the future. It's asking your sacral a yes or no question, and some people like other people to ask them the questions. I think it's just as effective and just as appropriate to ask yourself the question. If you're in the store or you're at a meeting or you're anywhere meditating, you can ask yourself the question and you will get an answer from your inner being. And just remember, the sacral never lies, so be prepared for the answer because it may take you by surprise. So the defined sacral in a healthy state is where you never initiate or make a decision from your mind, where you're patient and wait to respond, where you love your work and feel satisfied at the end of the day that your energy was well used, that you allow life to come to you and flow through you, and you trust your sacral and use it to make decisions. So for the open sacral, which is about 30% of the population, that would be all the projectors reflectors, and manifestors will have an open sacral on their charts. And so the open sacral just doesn't have sustainable energy like the other 70% of the population has. So you're not designed to work in the traditional sense of the word. And that might sound a little odd, but for you, sustainability is a huge issue. And you're not designed to do work that requires sustainability. In other words, people with the open sacral should not be farmers or laborers or factory workers. They shouldn't be doing anything that requires anything more than perhaps an hour or two of physical labor. It's just not correct for them. They're not built for the 9-to-5 job. They're not designed to perform that physical labor, especially for long periods of time. And so an ideal job or career for you is one that allows for lots of breaks or a flexible schedule. And other people might view you or imply perhaps that you're not working as hard or that you might be lazy, but that's not true. It's just that a 9-to-5 job can be a little too much for the open sacral person. So it's better for them to find jobs where they can be flexible, such as a teacher or professor, salesperson, consultant, someone who has some control over their schedule or has a much more flexible schedule. So you just don't have sustainable energy like the majority of the population who just happen to be generators and manifesting generators. So give yourself permission to take breaks and take naps when needed without feeling guilty about it. And also be sure to get enough sleep because that's really vital to your health and well-being. You will need time alone on a daily basis, and this allows you to discharge all the sacral energy that you've taken in and amplified from the other 70% of the population that has it colored in. Now, the issue with the open sacral is often that they don't know when enough is enough, and they might get carried away and overcommit. So, for example, you might have a job with a big deadline, and everybody else is working, and so you feel like you need to stay late or come in early or work the weekends. By the end of that project, you'll feel quite tired. So if you do need to be there for those big projects, that's fine, but just know when enough is enough and when you need to take a break so that you can get some extra sleep or some downtime or a vacation. Your energy levels are definitely inconsistent and limited, so you want to learn to manage your energy wisely, because if you fail to learn to manage your energy, that's what can result in either exhaustion or burnout or perhaps even an illness. So the open sacral in a healthy state is where you know when enough is enough, that you only perform physical labor for short periods of time, that you work in spurts, taking plenty of time for rest and relaxation, that you spend time alone regularly, and that you go to bed before you're actually sleepy so that you can relax and unwind. Thanks so much for listening. See you in the next video.